What is going on, everybody? Welcome back for another action-packed, info-packed episode of the Real Estate Virgins podcast. If you are an agent looking to learn from people who are not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, you're in the right place. We do interviews with top producing agents all over our area. We actually have a really exciting one coming next week.
We do.
Make sure you tune in for that. Now, are we going to release that one before this one or after this one?
After this one.
From
janitor to millions.
So tune into that one next week. That's going to be a banger, man. I'm so excited to get to talk to him. Welcome back, guys. My name is Jordan Brown at Jordan Sells ATX on Instagram. Highly considering changing it because it seems like everyone in this area has blank sells ATX in their tag.
I wouldn't change it.
No?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
All right.
No,
For now, you can find me there. Here with my buddy, good friend, business partner, entrepreneur extraordinaire, John Michael Perez.
What's up, guys? John Michael Perez at John Michael Perez on Instagram. Go follow us. Go message us. If you ever have any questions, we want to be a resource for you, and we're always helping out agents from any brokerage, from any team, from any walks of life. If you're a beginner, if you're experienced, if you just have any questions about social media, new modern ways of getting leads and attracting leads, like go follow us on Instagram.
Absolutely. Always happy to hear what's going on in your business and your life. We love collaborating with agents. Like we love hearing what's going on in your business and how we can help or just to chat, man. Like it's all about connections. We love it. Hey, if you're a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. If you are brand new here, make sure that you subscribe on whatever you're listening to so that you stay up to date with when we drop new episodes, mostly every single week. Sometimes things get a little bit crazy and we miss a week, but you know what? We're trying, baby. And we got our own business going on as well. So, hey, it is, we are done with January. It's already midway through February. Wow. This year is going by so fast.
The Austin market is starting to shift a little bit in a good way.
Is. Yeah.
Several, I think our team has 10 plus contracts under contract to close in March as combined, and then just seeing a lot more activity at open houses, which is great. I had a listing that went under contract in 3 days, but it's weird because some houses on the outskirts, some suburb houses are sitting. So it's like,
it's so hit or miss right now that it's hard to really like predict what's going to go under contract really quick.
Yeah.
Other than if you're just putting on like an insane deal, because there's certain pockets of our area that are absolutely popping right now. Like Pflugerville for some reason is having a resurgence.
Yep.
Liberty Hill is cooling off. It's kind of wild because it's so unpredictable now.
Yeah.
Interest rates are basically driving people to certain, probably more affordable areas that are in more developed areas. That's kind of what I'm seeing is that I think buyers are being a little bit pickier. They want to be a little more in the mix of things. So therefore, kind of my northern tip of Leander, Liberty Hill is kind of cooling off because of that, possibly. But what do you know? I mean, can't really predict it. I mean, in Orchard, I have a listing right now where I did some comps, and there were houses, like a majority of the houses that have closed within the last 2 months have been on the market. Take a guess.
120 days.
Roughly. That was on the low end.
Yeah.
There were a lot, like there was one that was 430 days. That's nuts.
430 days.
Yes. And then there was like one outlier that was 9 days.
Yeah.
So depending on where you go, and then in my neighborhood, things were super slow. This listing pops up that was really aggressive on pricing. Boom. 2 weeks, they're under contract.
Yeah.
Pricing and strategy are really important right now. At least for us. Some places, man, I watch Russ, who listens to this podcast and, is in our group, and he puts up something for sale. That man's got it under contract in a week. He's absolutely crushing.
Yeah. But the Austin market is finally seeing a positive shift. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
But, that's so important for agents. Don't get focused on one client and then completely forget about lead generating, because I've known, and I've actually been there before, where I only have 2 clients. Back in the day, I only have 2 clients, and I'm only focused on those 2 clients. And then for some reason it falls out of contract. They're not motivated to buy or sell anymore. And then guess what? I didn't lead generate. Right. And so
you've put yourself behind at that point.
Yes.
Now you're almost having to like quadruple your effort to get caught up to where you could have been if you would just maintain maintain that motion.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's so important on a consistent basis to lead generate in whatever way you can, and then double down on that lead generation from the aspect of don't spread yourself thin and try to lead generate in a million different ways. And then also don't give up too soon, right? Too many people give up way too soon before they even see a result. Some lead generating activities take 6 months to see a qualified buyer, right? And so if you're door knocking and you're giving up too soon, like maybe you need to door knock a little longer. Or if you're making videos and you're giving up too soon, maybe you need to be doing videos for longer.
Or maybe you also need to like tweak something. If something's not working, maybe take a step, ask someone else to look into what you're doing for advice, because we often think that I'm super guilty of this. I think my content is killer. I'm being consistent. Why am I not getting X result?
Yeah.
And then if I ask someone else, or if I compare my stuff to someone else's content and I go, so they're getting consistent leads from something's obviously working for them. What are they doing differently? And then I'll try to tweak my content a little bit. I mean, for example, I just did my first TikTok video that was completely unserious. I mean, I was doing what'd you call it? The like anti-showing or something like that, where I'm showing a house, but like I'm making fun of stuff. I'm
anti-serious.
Yeah. It's just super playful. Like I'm walking around, like I'm cussing, like a bunch of stuff that I normally wouldn't do in a advertising video of my services. But the ratio of interactions upticked dramatically, which was really interesting. Like the views didn't explode, but the amount of people that commented, interacted, liked it were significantly higher than my other serious posts. So all that to say, just change it up sometimes. You got to make some minor tweaks. Maybe we talk a lot about our content here, where when people see our background here, they probably know that we're talking about real estate. Yeah. And if they think they already can predict what we're going to talk about, they're more likely to scroll super quick by.
For sure. Yeah.
So change it up. Go out, if you record your stuff inside, maybe record yourself being out and about and in the city or at a park or whatever. Just change it up. Change your setting, change your tone, change your hook. There's a lot of different things you can do to try to gauge what is going right and what's going wrong in your content.
Absolutely. Yeah. So today, let's get into the topic. It's not going to be aimed towards newer agents. It's actually going to be aimed towards leaders and brokers and people that are trying to attract exceptional agents, right? And what's cool is I've been recently attracting newer agents, but they have exceptional intentions as well as an amazing heart to serve, which is really cool, because that lets me know that their vision is way bigger than transaction, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that you can't teach, right? There's a new kid that joined our team and my downline who, yes, he's new, but something about him, you can just tell. He's hungry. Yeah. He shows up. He attends meetings. He wants the development. That's something that we can't teach, is people who want the success and don't just want it to come to them, but are willing to do the work to shorten the gap.
Yeah. And so I was having lunch today with a friend of mine. He was like, "Hey, so are you recruiting now?" And I was like, "No, I'm not recruiting." And he was like, "Well, I mean, it seems like your team is growing so fast." I'm like, "I'm attracting," right? I have not messaged anyone and told them you should join my team, right? I've become what hopefully, in my opinion, my intentions are to become the leader that they want to be a part of, right? And so from the aspect of becoming a leader, right? What does that look like? In my opinion, we need to lead and not manage, right? And so when you're managing a team, you're just all over the place, right? But when you're leading and not managing, you're becoming what they want to become, right? You get the results ahead of time and then tell your team, this is how I got those results, right? Instead of, hey guys, are you doing okay? Are you doing okay? Are you doing all right? I mean, yes, that's super important, but if you're not leading and you're just managing, then you're not going to attract exceptional people.
Yeah. And there's a way to structure it too, where I look at myself as like a very big support role where you have the ability to attract talent, which I'm not saying that I can't or anything else.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm particularly good at or that I want to do.
Yeah.
But what I do know is I have a knack for teaching.
Yes.
I wanted to be a teacher growing up. I've always been okay with giving presentations at different brokerages that we've been at and wanting to invest in helping others achieve kind of the thing that I've been able to achieve, which on a huge scale is nothing compared to like some of these people selling $500 million and whatever. But I've gone from the transition between the corporate life.
Don't sell yourself short.
No, for sure. But so what I have done is escape corporate stranglehold on my life and depression from hating my job to having a life where my wife doesn't have to work right now. We have a beautiful baby boy at home and I have my dream car. I've accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
And and my dream is to help people transition that.
Yeah.
Now I'm not necessarily putting out the beacon to attract people that want to do that because it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. But people who do take the risk or make the jump and say, I want that, I'll teach you. Yeah. I'll teach you how I did it.
Exactly.
And so you as the attractor have people on your team that fill roles so that you can continue doing what you're good at, which is attracting.
And that's a very important part of being a leader is making sure your team uses their gifts within the team, right? And so it's like, okay, you as a leader, like that's your gift is teaching, right? Other people's gifts is corralling people and saying, hey guys, let's go do this, and then other people's gifts are structure, organization, right? And then what's cool is that if you're able to use your gift at the highest capacity and then also collaborate with other people, and then it's building off of each other's strengths instead of just sitting in a corner and using your one gift and not being able to do really good in the organizational or structural part, then you're never going to grow, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what's so important about being a good leader is recognizing your gifts, leading and not managing, and then those exceptional people will start attracting towards what you've got going on.
Yeah. So I look at it as it's almost like we're like a small army, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got like your general that's attracting the troops or whatever and like builds the army. And then you've got like someone like me who's going to like teach the war plan. Yeah. And then I've got the inspirational, big country who if we're going to go into battle, I want him giving the speech. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's cool that there's all these, and like I couldn't do that. Mm-hmm. So like it's cool that there's all these different moving parts that make the collective experience of leadership and team and community.
Yeah. It's so important. And then, a lot of people ask that question, well, what if I want to lead, but I don't have the qualities of who I want to attract, right? Like I want to attract big teams and big leaders, but I've never done that before. What is your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a good question. It's good that you've already, if that's your goal, it's good to have a clear identifier of what you're trying to attract. There's a lot of times in this industry, I think people try to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
And you're not equipped, or at least not right now, equipped to handle that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes your messaging may get muddled within there. If I'm trying to attract type A agents, but yet type B hears my message and goes, oh, that's me too, but it's not. Like there's a missing, my message isn't clear enough to say this is who I want to work with. So it's good to identify almost we talk about with our clients, you have an avatar of what your ideal client looks like. Yeah. What do you say to these people? What is the message that they need to hear? It's the same thing when you're attracting talent. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm putting out, like if I want to attract heavy hitters, right? I want to talk to independent brokers who are producing 50 million plus a year. And I'm putting out messages of, so if you're a first-time agent, you're not, that's not the audience. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's good that you've already identified who you're wanting to attract, because that makes it the path a little easier to identify.
I agree. And I think that it is important to have a certain level of credibility so that people, when they want to start working with you, that you have a track record of success. Yeah. And that also, I think people start becoming attracted to leaders that have exceptional visions, right? And so like they have a mission, right? And then they can portray that vision to everyone that's thinking about joining, right? Like we're more than just real estate. We're wanting to impact families, right? We're more than just transactions. We want to impact the kid that is, doesn't have parents, in your neighborhood, right? Like something that to that effect. Having a bigger mission is so much more vital than just being a regular leader.
It's partly what's made Mike is such a good attractor, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because he puts out tons of education, but he also has the background, right?
yeah.
He was an agent.
Yep.
He understands what our struggles are.
Yeah.
So we're able to understand a common language. And so when you're attracting people, you got to speak the lingo they do.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to relate to them on some level, because if you don't, your credibility is gone.
Yeah.
No one wants to work with an uncredible leader.
I agree. And I think that it's also important to share your wins, especially because people want to be a part of someone that's winning, or people want to team up with someone that's winning.
Yeah.
Now that goes with a fine line of not bragging, right? Because nobody wants to work with somebody that's just constantly bragging about everything, all the cool things that they have.
Yeah.
But if it comes from a good heart, like in great intentions, right? You start becoming this leader that's like, hey, my team is winning, right? This brand new agent just put a house under contract within 2 months of being a part of our team, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's huge, because there's agents out there that have been an agent for 8 months to a year that haven't closed a deal, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important to share those wins, and then share that vision, and then continuously just come from a heart of how do we empower others,
Yeah, I'm trying to get better at that. I think one of my weak points in my own business, I love hyping other people up. I don't know what it is. I really enjoy getting to say, hey guys, this person has either, aligned with us, or they've accomplished this milestone in their career, but I have a really hard time getting behind that for myself. I don't know what that is, what that's from.
What do you mean, hyping yourself up?
Yeah, but you know what I mean? I don't know.
And sorry guys, if you can hear my 3-year-old downstairs, he's going through it right now.
I worry. I'm not more concerned about celebrating other people's successes, but I think I worry about public perception on celebrating my own successes. And it like you said, it's a fine line, right? Between bragging and I almost feel like if I do anything, I'm bragging, and I know that I'm not.
Yeah.
But something about that.
Well, I think if you come from the intentions of you're telling your successes because you want them to succeed as well, it's different than you telling your successes and just to prop yourself up on a pedestal.
Yeah, it's not that I can't talk about what was accomplished. It's almost like I have a hard time telling the story.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's what it is. I need to become the better storyteller
Yeah.
of the successes. It's not so much that I have a problem with saying, hey, look what I like. Hey, I did something cool.
Yeah.
But more so hey, here's some background. And then I made this decision and it helped me do this, which then, resulted in this. I need to get better at that. That's a weakness I've just self-identified right there.
For sure. Yeah. And when it comes to leading, going back to that question, how do you become a leader without having a track record, right? I mean, it is important to gain credibility, right? And you're going to have to put your nose to the grindstone, as they say. Is that the right word?
I think so. Yeah.
And you're going to have to get a little bit of credibility. It's not going to happen overnight, right? But you can't attract exceptional people if you aren't exceptional yourself, unfortunately.
You've got to become what you want to attract.
For sure.
That's really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
You if you're going to go after a bunch of confident, producing, whatever it is, whether it's agents or people or whatever industry that you're in, you got to be one of those yourself.
Yeah.
Because I feel like birds of a feather fly together,
Yep,
right?
100%.
And so as cliche as that is, if you're super low energy and you are timid and you don't have the confidence to speak in front of people, how are you going to attract someone who leads 100 agents or 100 people
Yeah.
on a daily basis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they have to have that confidence that you're amplifying their strengths, not bringing them down a notch.
Yeah, I agree.
You're adding to, not taking from.
100%. And I think that, this is a note that I wrote down. Elite performers want to be empowered so that they can take ownership of what they're doing, right? And so that's why we're constantly, a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? It teaches how to empower others and how to learn other people's stories instead of just blurting out everything and all the cool things. Like, hey, let's learn more about these people. And then also, how do we empower those people as much as possible? Because if you can learn how to edify others, like we were talking about earlier, number one, it makes them feel special. Number two, it lets them know that you're actually thinking about all the cool things that this person is doing. And then number three, it empowers them to do the same for other people, which starts building an amazing culture within your environment and team.
Yeah, well, you have to trust other people to do their part. I think that I'm such a control freak that if I'm entrusting someone to, so when I was at AT&T, the biggest thing was we got a lot of responsibility thrown at us. They like furloughed a certain job, and all that responsibility got put on me on top of running the store, on top of doing, sales and all this. I have to trust that if I'm going to give a task to someone, I at that point had to trust that they were going to get it done.
Yeah.
Even though everything in me said, if I want it done right, I'm going to have to do it myself.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you want to grow past your own limitations.
Yeah.
You've got to let go of some of that control and just trust that you've done a good enough job of empowering competent people that can run with this responsibility and let them thrive in that accomplishment of taking on a role and executing it well.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest struggles that I have as a leader is still asking for help, right? Is like, how do I still have that title of a leader in some way, shape, or form, and then still say, hey man, I need help. Like that's definitely a hard thing to do. What would you say about that?
Well, I think leaders that lead effectively aren't afraid to ask for help.
Ooh.
I think they recognize that they can't do everything on their own.
Yeah.
I think you face burnout a lot quicker
Yeah.
if you're trying to if you're trying to have your hand in every cookie jar, like you're going to get burnt out.
Yeah.
And so you got to find a balance of, that's why, your whole point is attracting the right people.
Yeah.
Cause I could put whatever part, like I can fill a position, but is that person going to do it well?
Yeah.
Are they equipped? Are they empowered? Are they competent? All this stuff that goes into it, you have to have the right person for the right role. And that might take some plug and play with your pieces to put them in the right spot and ensure that they're doing their role as designed, right? But take the risk and let other people take this much from you at a time, and then make them bold and make them feel empowered. You have done a really good job about whenever you had like a presentation that you needed done, you would give me like a small portion, right? So it wasn't all on you. We would do like rookie to rockstar class.
Gotcha.
Where I got to do my part. Instead of it being like, man, here's this massive undertaking that I have to create this thing for this much time. Yeah. It was like, hey, like I could also get Jordan to help me with this. Yeah. And he's credible. He can plug in.
That was strategic too, because I wanted you to start being a part of that, right? And like giving you a whole, hey, just lead the entire class from the very beginning is like a lot of an undertaking.
Yes. But you as the leader said, I identify this as an opportunity to make another piece work.
Because you're a great teacher. Like, and everybody knows that, especially if you've taught them. That conversation that you had just before this podcast with Jordan on the phone, you are great at telling them like the systems of where to start and like where they need to go, and that's a super amazing gift. Another thing that I was going to bring up, let's see here. I know that obviously leaders need to be recognized and they don't just want to be minions, right? They don't want to be, they don't want to just be given a task and then that's it, right? I think recognition is more important than bonuses a lot of times, right? Like if, for example, I have a friend that's a lawyer, and we were talking, we were having barbecue, and he was like, man, do you have any idea on how I can, make my team feel more special? And I was like, man, if you're giving them, a couple $1,000 bonus, why not spend $500 on a magazine ad and say, hey, my employee did this, this, and that. That makes them feel way more special
Than what that $500
than a
bucks would do.
$500 bonus, right?
Yeah.
Or a couple $1,000, and it's cheaper, as well as it makes them empowered, as well as it lets them know that leadership legitimately is thankful and grateful for all the hard work that they put in, right?
I identify that with, again, my old job. I could achieve, like, the reward in their eyes was, you sell this, you will get this much money.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't care about that nearly as much as saying, Jordan, you freaking killed it last month.
Yeah.
Like, hey, thank you so much. Like, you're such a valuable part of this company.
Mm-hmm.
That would have made me feel 10 times better than what the money from the sale
Exactly
occurred. Like, money is nice. My perception of money has changed since getting into real estate, which is very interesting. But like, if someone were to, like, I know that if I work X amount of time, I'm going to get a client, I'm going to close a property, I can expect to make this much. So it doesn't, like, money doesn't really do it for me anymore in like smaller increments, but to some people it does.
Yeah.
But what's universally well received is a very heartfelt thank you and good job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, no matter if like my payment for helping a client close on a house is nice.
I mean,
But
like
what sends it over the edge is when they say, Jordan, thank you. We couldn't have done this without you.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Like,
That-
like, bro, that when I know I did, the money doesn't let me know I did a good job.
Yep.
It's them saying, Jordan, thank you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you killed it for us.
And sometimes, I mean, most times that's way more valuable than a bonus, right? Testimonials make agents feel amazing, as well as, like you said, I mean, I'm just gonna expound on what you said. You felt so much better when your leadership recognized you, right? Instead of the bonus. There was an agent that just joined under me, just joined our team, and he was saying, man, I interviewed like 5 or 6 brokerages, but it's not about what they said. It's about how they made me feel. And you made me feel like I was on top of the world, right?
Yeah.
And so that is a big difference between, if leaders can share the vision, can share the mission, can make them feel special, as well as retain that same vision and same mission once they sign up or once they join your team, then you can go so much farther, right? And then also on top of that, continually having something that your team can look forward to.
Oh my, bro, you're reading my brain right now. I was going to say great leaders help people grow throughout various cycles of their careers.
Yes.
Right? Anyone can take a new agent and help them sell one house. But how do you take that agent and empower them to where they've got their own self-sustaining business, that they're accomplishing goals that they never dreamed that they could have before, and you're making them feel important the entire way?
Yes.
Versus just saying the good stuff to get them in the door and then forgetting about them.
Exactly. And that's the major difference, right? Is, because I've been a part of brokerages where we do and say everything to get them to join, or I've been a part of teams where we do and say everything to get them to join, but then we don't follow through, right? Mm-hmm. And that's so much more important to actually follow through, to have that genuine intention of, I actually do want the best for you. And anytime you have a question, please ask me, right? And if you don't ask me, then it's not on me, it's on you, right?
I literally just made a 30-minute video today while you were gone.
Yeah.
I made a 30-minute video going over my experience at various brokerages and like what led me to initially sign up to be with them, and then maybe what changed, and ultimately my decision to leave those brokerages and end up where I'm at. And what I noticed was a lot of it was I almost felt baited by, hey, we've got this for you lined up over here. Our culture's amazing. Our training's amazing. And then you get in and it's like, okay, we got him. We can hands off now.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
Because especially for new, I know we're talking about like high level, high producer agents, but especially with newer agents, you have to feel like people are delivering on what they promise you, or I guarantee you will not be where you're at long.
Yep.
Because people, like, when you're new, you don't know any different. So everyone's going to promise the world to you. But those that you'll stay with and like the retention rates are really high are those who are probably following up with you every single week. They're throwing events. They want to know what's going on in your life.
Yep.
They care so much more about just, hey, so are you joining us or no? Hey, are you working with us or no? Like, I need to know.
Yeah.
I got to let my report know. Like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah. I think the major difference between attracting average people and exceptional people is exceptional people, they actually do want to be challenged a little bit. Like, they don't want to just be thrown into the mix and then do your thing, right? I think exceptional people, you know, like, hey man, how many closings did you get this week? Or like, hey man, have you been doing blah, 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 you know? But exceptional people, they do want a healthy amount of balance. And my thing is, this is my downfall, is I do not challenge people enough. Right. Maybe on this podcast, I'll say every once in a while, hey, I challenge you to go do this, this, and that. But in real life, I don't think I challenge people enough.
I can agree with that too. I'm that way as well. Like, so in my mentor position, I go over and I give people information and I tell them like plans. I tell them this and that. I almost feel like I'm missing a little bit of the accountability to where it needs to be like, hey, like I've given you this info. What have you done with it? That's what's missing, right? Because if you have all this information but you don't act on it, we talk about it all the time. The blueprints, the resources, it doesn't matter if you don't do anything with them. So that's something that Kenny and I are Kenny is working on. I'm seeing if he wants me to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Where we have an accountability group on Mondays where we hop on calls, we make plans, and we go over if we execute it or not.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important.
It's so important, you know. And I remember when I first started, I did not like being challenged. Like, I was like, hey, just tell me what to do, right?
Yeah.
Then over time, I did like being challenged. And honestly, I perform at the highest level when I am challenged because I start getting competitive, right? Like 75 hard is a challenge. And now I have those routines every single day doing a certain amount of things. And I've noticed that it directly correlates with amazing results within real estate and my business. So,
you mentioned that you didn't like accountability when you first started. I feel, and I was the same way.
Yeah.
And I think the reason being is that it stemmed from our 9-to-5s or our old jobs where accountability is looked at as a bad word. It's a thing that's going to get you in trouble.
Spot on.
Right?
So
instead, accountability within our group is, I want to see you skyrocket. And I know you're not going to get there unless you do these things.
Ooh!
Like, the mic is on fire, baby.
There's such a big difference, right?
Yeah.
Like coming from a 9-to-5 and getting challenged just because of being challenged, but then a leader genuinely wanting that person to succeed. So that's why they challenge. Completely different.
And rooting it in like people's goals, right? You told me that you got into real estate because you want financial freedom for your family. What does that look like to you?
Yeah.
Boom. I want my kid to be able to go to college. Well, how are we going to fund your kid's college tuition? It's by you selling houses. How many houses do you need to sell a year to make that happen? You need to sell 20 houses. How many conversations do you need to have per week to make that? There's a trail that happens there. And there's a formula to be able to say, great, you told me this is what you want to do. Did you execute on the plan that you know that you need to do to make it happen? Yeah. And the reason I'm doing is because I want you to succeed and I want you to accomplish that goal that you set for yourself. Yeah. It's not you don't answer to me. Mm-hmm. I don't fire you if you don't hit your goal. Yeah. But I want you to tell someone your goals so that they can push you towards them, because in our heads we'll make excuses with ourselves. Yeah. We will. We'll 100% make excuses with ourselves, but I'll show up for another person.
For sure.
You know, like if you and I, or if I'm like, hey, I'm going to work out every morning at 8:00, my alarm goes off at, 7:30 and I go, oh, well, I really don't feel like it today. It's all right. Yeah. I'll wait. Mm-hmm. But if you and I make a plan at 8 a.m. to go work out. I've got another person relying on me to show up. I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
I don't miss those appointments. So it's the same thing with your accountability. There's nothing wrong with sharing your goals, your ambitions, and what you want to do and have someone else hold you accountable to it.
100%. Yeah. And I think at the next level of leadership is recognizing who are leaders and who aren't, right? And then also empowering the leaders to build their own networks, right? To build their own teams, to take them to the next level, right? And a true leader is happy for another leader to succeed, even if they're not working with them, right? Mm-hmm. Because the thing is I've had leaders only happy for my success if it benefited them, right? And unfortunately, that is actually a massive difference in going 10 billion miles as compared to just a little small success, right? I've had agents say, hey, I don't know if this is the right decision for me, right? Perfect. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I genuinely want you to succeed.
And of course, you can call me if you need something, or like I'm rooting you on.
Exactly.
Even if it's not aligned with me, like I still want you to succeed.
But guess what? When I said that, it changed their entire perception of that conversation. And what happened is they ended up staying and making an even more massive impact because they knew I wanted them to succeed no matter where they were at, right?
Yeah.
And so that is the major heart difference, right? Like, I don't care where you go, I want you to succeed. I would much rather you be with us, but just know that my intentions are 100 or 1,000% for you to succeed.
And imagine if you would approach that conversation a different way, where it was the scarcity mindset of, hey, if you're not with me, you're against me. Like, hey, thanks for nothing. Like, sure, whatever you need to get out of here, like, let me know. The difference in support and just, man, what a great environment. I love that. Your heart, you know, your mouth says what the heart feels. And so if you're not tempted to support your people, you gotta fix your heart a little bit. You gotta look inward and figure out what's wrong in your heart that you're not happy for other people when they're successful.
And what's beautiful is that if it starts rubbing off on these leaders, they start becoming your biggest advocates, right? And so now they're advocating the same heart that you've placed into them because they know that you genuinely care about them, right? And so now they're like, dude, it's worked for him. He genuinely cares about me. If I do the same thing for thousands of people, right, and I start becoming that leader, then you're going to make such a bigger impact, not only on your life, not only on your family's life, but on your community, right? And so one thing I always say to myself, at least, is that if you're not spiritually, physically, and emotionally healthy, then you can't lead a spiritually, physically, and emotionally healthy family or team. Right. And so that's why we're constantly working on ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of people who go, well, John and Jordan, I can't be a leader. I think you absolutely can. I think leadership is a learned attribute. Like it's part of it's mental, because I was that person who, if people weren't succeeding with me, I was the hater. I've been in that mindset before. And I think that was because, again, I had shit going on in my life and in my heart and my head that couldn't allow me to be happy for other people if it didn't benefit me. But learning from great leaders on how to train your mind to fix that has completely changed it. And now I'm happy when people are successful, whether it's with me or not. I don't look at success as a bad thing. You know, we were just talking, you and I were having a conversation. The Super Bowl just happened, and there were some crazy videos online. And one of the things I said was, you know, I don't feel like I've ever seen where Patrick Mahomes, right? He goes to 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls. He wins 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls. And I feel like everyone is a hater. And when I was growing up, we had Michael Jordan, we had Tom Brady. You have all, you know, these greats. And it used to be cool to want to be a great athlete, or like to aspire to be Tiger Woods, to be a dominant athlete. And then like the internet came about and social media, and now all of a sudden it's a bad like you become the villain if you're successful. I think if you can get out of that, and I think maybe that's the product that I was in, was I was like part of the Haterade Club. And
well, I think it's a certain mindset, right? Like we're partnered up with Sue and Kim, which is the #1 agent in the United States individually, right? I'm not jealous of him because he's making, bukus of money, or I'm actually coming from the mindset of if he can do it, I can do it, right?
I'm inspired.
I'm inspired.
I get to work with this guy.
Exactly. It's completely different, right? And that's what a great leader does is he doesn't say, "Oh, some of my teammates are making more sales than me." It's more if you come from the mindset of I'm actually inspired that they're doing that and I'm happy for them, right? And if they can do it, I can do it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a completely different way of thinking because Patrick Mahomes just won 4 Super Bowl championships or 3 or whatever. It's like, how did he do it? And coming from the mindset of, well, if he can do it, I wonder what he's doing. Let's dive in. Let's research on what actually he's doing. Mm-hmm. What is his mindset? What is his physical habits every single day? Instead of he's cheating or
part of what makes him so great. And I don't know if you've seen any of these clips or like the behind the scenes stuff. He is a fantastic leader.
Really?
It doesn't matter what supporting cast he has coming into him. Like he had Tyreek Hill on his first Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Best wide receiver in the league. He's not with him anymore. He's won other Super Bowls with much less talent around him. And I think part of that is how inspired he gets his team ready to play.
I love it.
When they're in the huddle before a game and all throughout the game, he is hyping people up. He's keeping them engaged. He leads by example. He's getting in defensemen's, faces and talking his trash and whatever.
Yeah.
And then when he's on the sidelines, boom, defense, great job. Keep it up, blah, blah, blah. Offense, let's go. Like, get ready.
He's
ready.
Empowering.
Man, he is firing you up, not just at the beginning of the game, throughout the entire game. And people want to run through a freaking wall for that guy.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, again, these clips that I see and I go, man, what a great leader.
Yeah.
Like that, it's no wonder that guy is successful. It's never about him. He's not going around saying, you're making me look bad or y'all aren't giving me enough opportunities. It's all about the team.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, if I could embody him like in a leadership role, that's like an ideal leader.
Yeah. One other aspect is what would you say, and I'm going to answer this, is what would you say to the leader that feels like he's pouring from an empty cup, right? And so what I would say to that leader that is pouring from an empty cup is that you need to find a good leader to reach up to, right? And so now you can start refilling that cup from another leader. It doesn't matter how many sales you've done. It doesn't matter how much success you've had. There's always someone you can reach up to or look up to refill your cup, right? And so a lot of times leaders, they feel like they're depleted, like they don't have any more energy or whatever. It's because they're on a lonely island, not reaching up to someone that can actually either inspire them or guide them or mentor them. Or challenge them, right? And so now, yes, you are pouring from an empty cup because you haven't been revitalized to become that leader that you were meant to be.
I love that. If you feel like you've hit a ceiling on your potential or you're capped out on what you have to provide, that a coach is designed to take you to another level.
Yep.
They break you out of whatever repeating cycle that you're in, and they really force you to analyze things from a different perspective that you're not seeing yourself, obviously, right? We talk about we just talked about in this episode with content, like have someone else look at your stuff, but make sure that person that you're having look at it is credible and does it well. Like I don't compare my videos to people who are doing half the views that mine are.
Yeah.
I look at people who are doing 10x what my views are.
Correct.
What is this person doing right? Right? That's the comparison you want to do, and that's what a coach can do for you.
Yeah.
Is they can bring that what is it? Not comparison, but like
a different perspective, different experiences. And the thing is that like I have multi-million-dollar friends. They have coaches, right? They have mentors. They have billionaire coaches or whatever. And it doesn't matter how much success you've had. There's always someone you can learn from, right? And sometimes you have to remove your ego. You have to add a little bit of humility. And sometimes, you have to at least ask, right? Because if you don't ask, you'll never get an answer. But there's just, I've been in that place where I'm pouring from an empty cup, and then I've quickly had to analyze and audit what environment I'm hanging out with, and then who am I asking questions from, and then am I reaching up, right? And I keep saying the word reach up to that mentor that is somewhere you want to be and has the results you want to have, or else you're going to stay in the same place or go down.
Yeah. If you're the biggest fish in your pond, you need to jump into a bigger pond.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I love whenever I know that I've got a network of people that I can reach out to when I'm not feeling inspired. I know that I have a network of people when my business is stale or whatever it is, or I'm in a head funk.
Yeah.
I have people I can talk to. So good leaders aren't afraid to reach out to other leaders for help.
100%. Yeah. Do I have any more comments? How much time should you use hanging out with leaders or exceptional people as compared to average people? That is a weird question.
Yeah,
that's a question someone else asked, not me.
I mean, I guess it depends on your goal, or like, I don't know. That's a funky one. I think I see what they're saying, maybe. Because you don't want people who we've talked about, like, we've had people on our team who were clearly not going to put the effort in to better themselves,
Yes.
their position or whatever. And you and I talked after that meeting and said, I wish we would have known that, because we would have saved ourselves an hour or an hour and a half of that.
It was a learning experience.
Yeah. So, and we also like drove to meet them, and it's like we didn't get the credibility behind, or like get to learn anything about this person.
Yeah.
So that made us change kind of we don't want to just work with anybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like, sort of. Like,
I know what you mean. I think that
I'm having a hard time explaining, but like,
worries.
you know what I'm talking about.
I think what Jordan's trying to say is that you want to focus your time with people that are putting in the work and plugging in, right? So if they're not doing that, then a lot of times they can be time wasters, and the most important currency within real estate is time, in my opinion, because what are you spending your time on? Who are you spending your time on? And why are you spending your time on? Because a lot of times, if you're wasting your time, you just wasted opportunity to lead generate. You just wasted opportunity to build genuine relationships. You just wasted opportunity to empower others. And
there's also like energy vampires, and then there's people that, like, when I leave talking with Ryan, I feel jazzed up. You know what I mean? Like, we went and had lunch with him,
Ryan
Smith.
Oh, Ryan, yeah.
Like, great conversation every single time. He was on our podcast. I left that feeling really good.
Yeah.
We went to lunch. I felt jazzed up, ready to get after it. I don't mind spending time with Ryan. I love Ryan. Like, I love his energy that he's giving out. But I think the problem I had with that question was like average versus like exceptional, I guess. Average. I don't really know.
This is not a question I wrote. This is a question that someone else wrote.
Yeah. I think it's
not that it matters.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like being around people that give me life.
It's important. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Let's see here. Some of the notes that I have on here is carve out special time with the people that need more help, right? Because it is going to be, you don't want to just put them within your regular schedule.
Yeah. I noticed that I have some mentees that are brand new to real estate. And so what I did is I created a space on Tuesdays and Thursdays where I hop on a call, because I understand I can't be everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
But I can hop on a Zoom.
Boom. That's the answer. That's the answer.
I can hop on a Zoom and give them a platform to be able to come to me with questions, with concerns, with anything that they need, where it's not just, hey, if we didn't get to meet up in person this week, whoops.
Yeah. I think this question is a bit of a weird one, because we're not in that position. But I would say is, like you said, carving out time for people that will have a certain type of questions, right? Like, how do you download a contract, right? Like those are questions that maybe we have a group setting, right? And that's where we answer that question, right? But if it was a higher level question of like, how do you find the mud or how do you find a certain document? I don't know. Then I can answer that specific question.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta, I think good leaders make time based and like make themselves available outside of traditional means. Cause I think traditional means are for like average leaders. I think if you want to be exceptional, you've got to provide really top-notch service to your team and be available, right?
Another question.
If you're unattainable, like if I can't get to my leader, I don't feel connected to them.
Agree.
And I don't feel that they're of any value to me.
I hate leaders that make me feel like I'm unimportant.
Yeah.
You know?
Oof. There's a book, I can't remember what the book was, but my mom read it and she told me, and this was exactly how I felt when I was at AT&T. She said, people don't leave companies. They leave bad management or they leave bad leaders.
Yes. Bad leaders. Yep.
And it's so true. I mean, I look at it and go, you know what? Most of the time, people aren't going to have a problem with the way that EXP is structured or like the value proposition that we have. But if we don't make them feel included, if we don't make them feel like they have community, that's whenever people are going to have, they get restless, you know, they get anxious and they're like, oh, like this isn't working out how I thought it would, or, you know, so you gotta bring your people in. You gotta create, if there's a lack of community, create the community.
How do you, this is a question, another question. How do you attract agents or people to your team if they're getting paid more somewhere else?
I don't think money's everything. Money's not everything.
Yep.
There's like, I took a quote unquote worse split to be where I'm at now because of the community aspect, because of the vision, because it aligned with.
Say it again. Say it again. If you can share an amazing vision and an amazing mission, it doesn't matter really.
Yeah.
Not much, right? I mean, yes, it is important, like a small bit, but if you have an amazing mission and then you make them feel like they're going to make history where they're at, it's completely different, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. It's money. Like money's important. Money is a tool, but community, sense of belonging, resources, trainings, like there's so much other value adds that could be missing where people are. Opportunity for leadership role. There's all this other stuff that could be missing in someone's life other than a monetary value that would make them move to somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's exactly why we moved.
There's two stories I want to share. One is I remember when we were an independent band. We were in a band together, and we were booking our own shows, right? And then we realized if we got management or a booking agent that we'd have to pay 15% of every show that we make, right? But what we realized is that we were making 100% of all the shows we made, but what is 100% of nothing? It's still nothing, right? Mm-hmm. But if we were paying 15% of a ton more shows, it's way more than 100% of nothing, right?
Yeah, 50% of a watermelon is worth more than 100% of a grape.
Exactly. And then there's this other story where Steve Jobs, he was trying to attract this certain executive from Pepsi. I think it was like the CEO of Pepsi. And he was like sharing a vision of who Apple was and who they were going to be. And basically he told Scully, the Pepsi executive, he was like, when you're done, he kept calling him. And then he left a voicemail and said, when you're done selling sugar water to kids, give me a call, right? And his wife heard the voicemail and she leaned over to her husband and was like, he's sort of right. You know, you're just selling sugar water to kids, you know? And so sharing that vision of who you are and where you're going is so much more important than like the 5 or 10% difference.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you know, this 10% difference doesn't or whatever it is, right? I'm willing to give that portion up if what I'm getting in return is worth more than I value that percentage.
So true.
And so it's the same thing when we're talking a lot on real estate terms. Obviously, it's a real estate podcast, but when it comes in anything in life, you'll likely give up a small monetary difference. Imagine like if I was at AT&T and like I was in a really bad headspace, if something better came along where I would have been happier, my schedule would have been better, my perceived value within the company would have been better, I probably would have left over for less money.
Yep.
And I know like millennials are doing this in waves right now. Is millennials are kind of going, you know what? We're done being undervalued. We're done feeling like we're disposable. And we value how we feel. We value experiences, and we value our time more than this money that we chase.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's not just millennials, but just in your industry, no matter where you're at, like, don't hesitate to really focus on the value you bring and stop focusing on stupid things like splits and caps and this and that, because it's
within reason too.
It's not all
reason.
equal.
Yeah,
it's not all. There's. I mean, our first brokerage had the most aggressive split I've ever had. I didn't feel the value of the split. That's why I left.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the whole nutshell right there. I didn't see the value in paying that much every single time, and so I left.
Yeah. And you did.
And there was no sense. I had no community built, so I didn't feel like I was attached there.
Yeah.
There was nothing keeping me there.
And I think that's so important for leaders on this podcast episode to constantly be aware of recognizing the people that just got their first contract, right? Recognize them, make them feel special.
It's a big deal.
It is.
We get super caught up. Like when you're already producing, you've likely forgotten what that first contract made you feel like.
Yeah. Don't laugh at them. It's not a small feat. It is a big feat.
Yeah.
And especially at the beginning of their career when they're starting to build momentum, right? Like it's not a small deal. It really is a big deal.
A lot of them are going, man, I don't know how I got here, but look at me go.
Yeah.
And you're like, heck yeah, you did.
Yeah. And it was so cool when I shared, hey, Deanna, I shared, hey, she just got her first house under contract. Like
the group
rallied, right? And that's the community I want to be a part of, right?
Yeah.
I don't care even if it was Suman Kim's $200 million, he just hit $200 million in sales or whatever.
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal. That's huge, right? I'm just saying, for example, or Deanna's first deal. Like both are huge
reasons to celebrate.
And I would rather want to be in a community that is celebrating me no matter how big the celebration is, right? No matter how awesome this agent is or how awesome this agent is, like we got to celebrate each other. We got to edify each other, and we got to be grateful for the opportunity to be around each other, because that community is so much more important than a 5% difference in commission.
Yeah. Well, there's agents that we want to work with who are, I'll use the term sticky, right? Because they do have a community at these places that are high splits, right? And that's fine. There's a way to win for everybody.
Yeah.
But it just shows I didn't feel the community, so I had no problem leaving, versus people who do establish it and feel that sense of belonging will justify paying whatever higher split. Like there's duality to it.
Yeah.
I think if you create the community, you nurture it, it's a good thing.
Another thing is rewarding people based off of characteristics instead of production, right? And so like heart to serve, right? Like giving an award that says you had the heart to serve others instead of, oh, you sold 50 houses this year, right? Like, no, I'm going to reward this person because they went out of their way to help their community, right? Or I'm, a go all in agent, right? Like they went all in. They did their their headshots. They did their marketing. Every week they're doing their videos. It doesn't matter how much production they have. They're giving effort, right?
Yeah.
Like the Go All In award, right? That means so much more than a production award. Because I've been at brokerages where it was like all the cool people that were doing all the huge sales, right?
And that was it.
And that was it.
It's all they recognized.
They haven't made a positive impact on their community.
Bro, if I wanted to feel like just a number, I would have stayed at AT&T.
Exactly. You know? And so I guess that's the summary of this entire episode is don't make people feel like a number. And the camera went out. So let me fix that.
Nice.
Go ahead and close this out.
Yeah, man. Hey, thank you guys so much for listening. Very value-packed episode for people who want to be better leaders in their industry. I know we're listening to a real estate podcast, but in anything that you do in life and you want to be a leader, hopefully this was relevant to you and you learned something new today. We believe in you guys. I'm just so thrilled that that we're doing what we get to do. It's been such a blessing to just, even like you and I, man, like this is so cool to be able to go on this venture with you. Like not to get mushy on you, but like you and I have come a long way, and we're just getting started. As one of my favorite streamers likes to say, we're at the tippity top of the mountain and we're only halfway up.
Ooh, I like that. Going from broken down vans in San Antonio or actually Los Angeles, thinking we were about to get hit, to selling houses and building teams. I think it's a super cool journey that we're on. And like you said, say it again.
We're at the tippity top of the mountain and we're only halfway up.
All right.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. If you found any value in this, like I said, subscribe. One of the best free ways that you can help support this podcast is by giving us a nice 5-star review on whatever listening platform you are hearing this on. Like, subscribe on YouTube. We will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for listening.